Hello, students. So, where we have ended? We have ended here. Evans, facing the door, sat quietly at the farther of the two tables. His whole attention riveted to a textbook of elementary German grammar. Stephens took the key from its ring, and the cell lock sprang back with a third metallic twang. It was 9:10 a.m. when the governor switched on the receiver. He had instructed Jackson to tell Evans of the temporary little precaution. That was only fear, as if Evans wouldn't spot it. But wasn't it all a bit theatrical? Schoolboys, almost. How on earth was Evans going to try anything on today? If he was so anxious to make another break, why in heaven's name hadn't he tried it from the recreational block? Much easier, but he hadn't. And there he was now, sitting in a locked cell. All the prison officers on the lot, two more locked doors between his cell and the yard, and a yard with a wall as high as a haystack. So let us get out the meaning of this paragraph. Evans was sitting quietly, facing the door, slightly away from two tables. This was the position of Evans. He was sitting very quietly and he was facing the door. And he was just a slight away from the two tables. And he was concentrating on the elementary German grammar. Stephens took one of the keys from the ring and opened the lock. The lock of the cell made a ringing sound after it sprung up. So what happens in 9:10 a.m. that the governor switched on the receiver of the microphone. He ordered Jackson to tell Evans to be careful as they had installed a microphone in his cell. And he thought that it would be good to forewarn him. It means to warn him before the exam is going to be held. He said it in a way as though Evans would never be able to spot it, means to find out that what is going to be happen and what conversation is going to be take place between governor and the two examined. A thought came to the governor's mind that all this seemed like a theatrical drama, and all their preparations were like those done by school boys. He thought that how could Evans think of escaping that day? So many thoughts were just roaming about in the mind of the governor. He could have tried it when he was at the recreational block because it was easier to escape from there. But today he was locked in his cell. All the officers were closely watching him, and there were two doors between his cell and the yard. There were walls as high as piles of dry grass. Yes, Evans was totally safe now. So this was the thought that was going on in the mind of governor. Okay, let us read the next paragraph here. Anyway, it wouldn't be any trouble at all to have the receiver turned on for the next couple of hours or so. It was not as if there was going to be anything to listen to, was it? Amongst other things, an invigilator's duty was to ensure that the strictest silence was observed. But, but still that little nagging doubt. Might Evans try to take advantage of McCleary, get him to smuggle in a chisel or two or a rope ladder or so there was many thoughts that was roaming about in the mind of governor. Here smuggle means to take something or something illegally, and chisel means a long bladed hand tool. So the governor thought that there will be no problem if he keeps the receiver switched on. Although she knew that there was nothing to listen because it is the duty of the supervisor to maintain silence. But she was still in doubt. He was worried about Ivan's taking undue advantage of McCleary. He thought that she could have smuggled him to take long bladed hand tool or rope ladder. The governor sat up sharply. It was all very well getting rid of any potential weapon that Evans could have used. But what about McCleary? What if, quite unwittingly, the innocent McCleary had bought in something himself? A jackknife, perhaps? And what if Evans held him hostage with such a weapon? Here, potential means possible, unwittingly means unknowingly. Jackknife means a large knife with a folding blade, and hostage means captive. So, in the next paragraph, we came to know that the governor at once got a lot. He thought that they had taken away all the possible weapons from Evans. But there were chances that McCleary could have brought some weapon unknowingly with him, such as jackknife, which is a large knife with a folding blade. Even Evans could hold him captive, means that to catch him, to hold him, for forcing the prison officer to release him. Here we have the next paragraph. So the governor reached for the phone. It was 9:12 a.m. The examinee and the invigilator had already been introduced by Stephens when Jackson came back and shouted to McCleary through the cell door, "Can you come outside a minute, sir? You too, Stephens." So here, what happens? The governor called up someone at 9:12 a.m. Stephens had already introduced the supervisor and Evans, who had to appear for the exam. Just at the moment, Jackson came and asked McCleary to come outside for a minute. Jackson quickly explained the governor's worries, and McCleary patiently held out his arms at shoulder level whilst Jackson lightly fixed his clothes. Here, fix means check and search. "Something hard there, sir." "Your reading glasses?" replied McCleary, looking down at the spectacle case. Jackson quickly reassured him and, bending down on the landing thumb, flicked the catches on the suitcase. He picked up each envelope in turn, carefully passed his palms along their surfaces, and seemed satisfied. He riffled curiously through a few pages of Holy Writ and vaguely shook the church times. All right, so far, but one of the objects in McCleary's suitcase was puzzling him sorely. So, hereby he explained about the governor's reasons for being worried. McCleary cooperated him in the checking process by holding out his arms so that he could be checked. Jackson started checking him very fast. He then found something hard, which McCleary said was his reading glasses. And to be more sure, he even checked his suitcase. He checked each envelope and carefully searched everything with his palms. He also went roughly through the Holy Writ and the church times. A riffle means turning pages quickly, and sorely means with a great intensity and strongly. So everything was fine, but there was one thing in the suitcase that was strongly confusing him. Do you mind telling me why you have brought this? Sure. He held up a smallish, semi inflated rubber ring, such as a young child with a waist of about 12 inches might have struggled into. You thinking of going for a swim, sir? So McCleary's hitherto amiable demeanor was slightly ruffled by this tasteless little pleasantry, and he answered Jackson somewhat sourly, "If you must know, I suffer from hemorrhoids, and when I am sitting down for any length of time." So, in this paragraph, Jackson asked McCleary as to why he had brought a half filled rubber ring. A rubber ring which was not even fit for a small child with 12-inch waist. He asked him whether he was going for a swim. McCleary, who till now seemed very friendly, suddenly changed because of the tasteless joke he had made. So he told him that she suffers from hemorrhoids, and hemorrhoids, what is hemorrhoids? Hemorrhoids means piles. So she suffers from hemorrhoids, and when she has to sit for a long time, he left his sentence incomplete here. Very sorry, sir. I didn't mean to. The embarrassment was still reddening Jackson's cheeks when he found the paper knife at the bottom of the case. "I think I would better keep this, though, if you don't mind. That is, sir." So, here Jackson felt very awkward but felt sorry for asking him all that. She then later on discovered the paper knife in the suitcase and said that she hoped McCleary didn't mind if he kept it with him. It was 9:18 a.m. before the governor heard their voices again, and it was clear that the examination was going to be more than a little late in getting underway. So it was 9:18 a.m. when governor heard their voices again. It was understood that the exam will start a little late. Here we will have the conversation between McCleary and Evans. "McCleary, oh, you got a watch?" Evans, "Yes, sir." McCleary, "I will be telling you when to start and again when we have 5 minutes left, right?" Silence. McCleary, "That's a plenty more. Oh, this writing paper, should you need it?" Silence again. So here McCleary queried Evans about having a watch. He answered yes. He said that she will tell him when to start and she will again tell him when only 5 minutes will be left. Evans said nothing. McCleary, "There's plenty more of this writing paper, so I need it." Silence. McCleary, "Now write the name of the paper 0211 in the top left hand corner." Silence. McCleary, "In the top right hand corner, write your index number 313, and in the box just below that, write your center number 271. Alright, it means alright. So here McCleary gave him instructions about where to write the index number, center number, etc. And he quietly followed it and said nothing about it. Silence. 9:20 a.m. McCleary, "I am now going to." Evans, "Is not going to stay is E." It was just incomplete sentence and it is the accent of German language. So McCleary, "I don't know about that. Stephens, Mr. Jackson's given me strict instruction too." Evans, How I am supposed to concentrate on my exam with someone breathing down my neck? Christ! Sorry, sir, I didn't mean. When McLeary was about to say start, Evans interrupted him and looked at Stephens. Stephens answered that he has been ordered by Jackson to stay there for the exam. But here Evans complained of not being able to concentrate if someone will be constantly be watching him like this. The governor reached for the phone. Jackson! Ah, good. Get Stephens out of that cell, will you? I think we are perhaps overdoing things. As you wish, sir. So, what happens here? He also felt sorry for this, and governor called Jackson and ordered him to get Stephens out of the cell as he thought that they were doing it a bit too much. The governor heard the exchanges in the cell, heard the door clang once more, and heard McLeary announce that the examination had begun at last. So the governor heard what was talked on the phone between Stephens and Jackson. He had the door being shut and also heard McLeary announcing the beginning of the exam. So it was 9:25 a.m. and there was a great calm. At 9:40 a.m. the examinations board rang through and the assistant secretary with a special responsibility for modern languages asked to speak to the governor. The examination had already started, no doubt. A quarter of an hour ago, yes, well, there was a correction slip which some fool had forgotten to place in the examination package. Very brief. Could the governor please? So it was 9:25 am and there was a great peace over there. At 9:40 am, the assistant secretary for modern languages called up from the examination board to speak to the governor. The examination had already started about a quarter of an hour ago. He told him that some fool had not placed the correction slip in the examination package. So he then tried to seek help from the governor. The receiver assures him of help by directly connecting the call to Mr. Jackson in D Wing. So was this the sort of thing the governor had feared? Was the phone call a fake, some signal, some secret message? But he could check on that immediately. He dialed the number of the examination board but heard only the staccato bleeps of a line engaged. Staccato means a short musical note. But then the line was engaged, wasn't it? Yes, not very intelligent. That. 2 minutes later, he heard some whispered communication in the cell and then McLeary's broad Scots voice. Scots means another term for Scottish. So, could this be a reason behind his fear? It was the question that was popped in the mind of governor. The governor thought it. A line of thoughts came to his mind about the call being a fake call used to share some signal or secret message. He then cross-checked it by dialing the number of examination board and then he heard the sound of continuous beep which one hears if the phone is engaged. And after a gap of 2 minutes, he heard some whisper. Will you please stop writing a wee while, Mr. Evans, and listen carefully. Candidates offering German 0211 should note the following correction. On page 3, line 15, the fourth word should read goldenen, not golden. And the whole phrase will therefore read Jum Golden Luen, not Jum Golden Luen. I will repeat that. So, after a gap of 2 minutes, he heard some whisper, and after a while, he heard McLeary giving instruction to the Evans in his heavy Scottish voice. He asked him to stop writing for a while and also instructed him to open page 3. Here he gave him some instruction as to make correction of fourth word in 15th line.